Thokozani ugogo nabomkhulu. It's Wednesday. I'm shining because I have been so busy. Le bona le tuku ya ka fela gore hey, ke tuku ya December this one. Yeah, I've just had a busy day and I'm not even finished. Ke December boss, like yo, I'm feeling the festive season, but I'm busy and booked up and until next year. Okay, before we go into the topic, January next year, I'm going to be having Mukete wa Israele. I wanted to have it Kadi 2, but then, people made me aware for the 2 is a Sunday. So I think we might do the 8. I just need to find out from my elders. So those Baba Batang, Israele, to be helped ka Israele, do come through. It's going to be called Carltonville. So for those who'd love to come, that's it. After this post today, I'm going to make a request, a formal one. Or if you guys know people Babanaling Israel in their area, you don't need to list Mabito Abone Israel. No, you can just write their names and their phone numbers. Please ask them for permission first, because I get a lot of people Babalang Israel in different areas, and I don't know where to refer them to. Just yesterday I spoke to a lady wako Eastern Cape and she needs Israel. So, she can't really come to Tabazembe. Let me be realistic here. So if you guys know people, Baba Naling Israel houses, Baba Itzing, you just write their name. Like I'm saying, I'm going to put up my grandmother's name, Kimema Kubeze, Oko Carltonville, and I'm going to put her phone number up. If you guys can, please, Kopang, Bo Melbourne Israeli to please give us their permission so we can have their numbers and people can just contact them. Okay. This is in no way saying that now, I'll be checking in Moliteng Leo or is it correct or not. This is like a directory of Dimpandes Israel. Let's call it like that. I do hope next week, hopefully, I'm going to also ask for a request for people who have helped them that are very good, right? And their phone numbers. So this would also it's going to be very helpful for people when they are looking for places to go, and that. But we need a referral, right? Because we know on our spiritual journey, right? So if you've had a great gobela and you're really proud of their work and you feel that they could help other people, let me just adjust this. And if you to other people, next week we're going to do that. Please put your Gobela up and her name, even if you don't put up her Josie name, and her phone number. And maybe some people, as we do readings, there are some people who will say, okay, well, when are you need to trust her? And they're in a particular area. And maybe then they can just contact your Gobela that you've gone to, that you are proud of. It's not always good about spirituality. There are some people doing some amazing work out there, and it would be great if we could actually form a network so that we can find these people, unlike sitting and talking about the people who are not doing a great job. So rappelling, and then we jump right into today's topic. Bitulan tate la morale halang amen. Bitulan tate la morale halang amen. Ha arapetse aya ho baratua. Aba fumana ba kgalehile ke maswabi mme a re ho bone le robaletseng tsohang le rapele hore le sekene molekong. Amen. Amen. Bitulan tate la morale halang amen. Kiena yao lopulang libitleng, kiene au yao khakang ka mohau. Yao khakang le ka lerato, ke ene yao fepang tse molemo bophelong bohle ba hao hore o boele o ntjhafale jwalo ka ntsu. Amen. All right, let's pray and then we get into today's topic. Ntata rona mahodimong, bitso la o le haletswe, o tle moswa hao thato etse lefatsheng jwalo ka etswa lehodimong. O re fe kajeno bo ba re lekaneng ba tsatsing le leng. O re tshwarele melato ya rona jwalo ka o re tshwarela ba re sitelwang. Se re se moleko o merolwane ho ye mobe Bani musuku ha o le matla le kganya le kgale le jwale ka o sa feleng. Amen. Amen. So a bit off the topic but relevant. I saw, I think it was my live a few weeks back when I was saying, I think in it was lit Fembang, people have told me this. And there was a gogo who actually commented and said, yes, I do. And she apologized for but you know, I wanted to say this, I just haven't had time to type it. I haven't had time to type it back, but I wanted to say to Gogo, this is an open space. Thank you for letting me know. I'd love to meet my Josie FM bang. I'd love to. In as much as I know, some people have sent me messages, go to you know, also faith. Some of you guys are actually looking at my blogs and my live, and you're like, but also faith. Also faith and now she wants to tell us what to do, you know. But I want to make this known to you guys, especially with regards to today's topic. On this journey, you never stop, you never end, you never finish. You never get to a place of completion. It's always the steps, right? And previously, but for many years, I guess maybe that's why our elders, people would go for 8, 9, 10 years. You know, you go there, you need to go and pick up the skill, look to this ancestor, you go and to that ancestor. It was always like that. So for some of you guys watching and Badimu Baluna Baliblela or Maras of it's okay. Tell them that I'm well aware of it. I know that I'll never finish. And you know, thank you for those babamponelang and that it's in no way like linyato, because we are all here as human beings seeking, you know, a spiritual experience. Okay, so on to today's topic, Amabhayi for prophets. If you are a prophet and you use the Bible, what prophet? Why do you need Amabhayi? And what inspired this topic, by the way, I thought it up like 15 minutes ago. What inspired this topic was I watched a YouTube video, I think a couple of weeks ago, of this lady who had gone Golifetong. She's not showing her face or anything, but I can just hear her voice. And she speaks of a horrific experience where they were eating like raw meat and raw liver and raw lungs. It's just a horrific story, you know. So as I'm reading through the comments, you know, I see religious people are saying, but we've been saying Ugutwaza is or Bungaga Basetsu is demonic, you know. And others are sort of saying, the ancestral people saying, well, you were at the wrong place, and you know, I've also shared similar experiences. But you know, you don't have to look at it that way. Some people, Abangoma and spiritual people, were very angry. I mean, I saw the comments, but you know, you've got no idea what you're talking about. But that video is trending. That video is trending. I mean, I saw it at like over 300,000 views. So, you know, it got me thinking that, you know, what went wrong. A few years ago, I also saw another, like it was just pictures. It was a post by somebody of a person who had gone Ayotwasa or not. I'm not quite sure. And they were burning Amabhayi. We've heard, you know, testimonies from people in the New Age churches, that they were already the fire churches, who will be testifying, you know, I mean, I was in Bungaga and I realized that it's demonic and whatever, and I took the taula and the beads and threw them away, and now I'm saved by Jesus. You know, so what is Bungaga say, especially for most of us coming from religious Christian backgrounds? It becomes so difficult when you hear testimonials like that. You know, people say, nah, I took, you know, whatever, and I surrendered to Jesus. I even read up on a medium some time back who said that she was a medium for many years. And she realized after some time that these spirits were controlling her. So when she decided to sort of denounce these spirits, The spirits were very angry, and she could feel them like giving her the evil look. She had a bit of misfortune, until she fully surrendered into the ministry of Jesus and that. So, I mean, what does this say about Bungaga? You know, it's one thing. I know for most of us coming from religious backgrounds to say, okay, fine. The Bible specifically says don't divine, don't speak to the dead. Yet now we use the Bible. So, where do you draw the line, right? And I'm hoping to put this into perspective for most of us. I'm gonna say it like this. Okay, I just want to tell you guys one more thing. I had a radio interview a few months back where I was debating water spirits with a religious person. Okay, we didn't get to actually debate concurrently, but I presented my version and he presented his version. Okay, his version. And in the preparation for this debate, I decided to read up in the Bible because already when I was preparing for this interview and this debate, Amabhayi just literally said, look up the story of Leviathan, because Leviathan is the only snake in the Bible that is spoken of. Leviathan is like a very powerful snake that lives in the sea. And a lot of, I believe, religionists have, assimilated water spirits to Leviathan, and, how God curses Leviathan and that. So Amabhayi literally said, go and read up on Leviathan. And I did. In the Bible, got the Bible scriptures and that. And then I went on to read more about Leviathan and what the story behind, Leviathan is. So what I found out, and I mean, I'm thinking to myself, Leviathan would be the religious version of Umnikazi, right? That's what I thought. I mean, my debate was on water spirits. So I thought, okay, I mean, Umnikazi is projected as Inyoga, basically, in the river, in the waters, right? It could even be in the sea. We've heard stories of people talking about, famous or popular pastors and people, doing satanism, going to live under the sea for some time and coming up and emerging with new powers, So in many ways, our spirituality is tainted by all of these things. But how true is it? I mean, is it good enough for us to just say, okay, no, rubbish, it's rubbish, right? Or not? For me, one of my biggest issues was my grandmother, Unanali. She had this book many years ago. I wonder who the author was. This guy was a self-proclaimed Satanist. I think this guy was from Nigeria, if I remember well, the book. It was a printout. And I remember her reading out, bits of that book to us. I think that's when I started, that was before I started having dreams of snakes and that. So this book, this is like a biography of, I suppose, an unknown person. I don't know who he is. But he speaks very much about rituals where they were going underwater and gaining like this power and the ability to see into the future even, So when I head to Twasa, it was a problem. Like it was a real problem for me. So the story of Leviathan, here's how it goes. The God does sort of speak of Leviathan as a demon, a serpent, a warrior of the sea, right? Also even cursing Leviathan. And sort of saying, how he has used his might to sort of derail God's people. However, religion specifically chooses to ignore that there is an entire, I think it's Isaiah, where God praises itself for creating Leviathan to be as strong as it is. And ultimately God saying that there is no creature equal to Leviathan. God sort of saying, if I were not God, you'd be almost as powerful as I am, and God praising itself for this remarkable creation. I read also that later on in Revelations, there is like an insinuation of God using the skin or the body of Leviathan, the snake, to pave and to create the heavens. Because there is it's like an insinuation of Leviathan's skin being glossy and shiny, um, and almost having like stars on it. That being the makeup that God, oh, it's Job. Okay. Tokozako. Where now God now says that, he will use the skin, the body of Leviathan, stretch it out and create the heavens with it. That is very interesting now, because now at no point does God speak about the worship of Leviathan, and at no point does God sort of banish Leviathan. I mean, instead, God speaks the opposite and praises itself for creating Leviathan. So I thought that was very interesting, because now what religion is telling us about Leviathan and the serpent of the sea being like a demon. Leviathan may have been a demon, but again, God now says, but this is a demon that I've created. And when I thought about, let's say Baruti or even Satanists who say they go and live underwater, they've got rituals that they do underwater. Then I started to think to myself, and even with my research about Leviathan, that is there a water serpent that is demonic in nature? I mean, if people are saying, self-proclaimed, that they've gone underwater, then clearly there is a demonic version. Except when I was reading about Leviathan, it was said that in actual fact, Leviathan was created to be two. There was like a male and female version of it, split in two. And it's like the version of Leviathan that we know now ate up the other. And this speaks to Umnikazi now. If there were two, if you think about it, just like the story of creation, Adam and Lilith were created as two individuals. And then eventually one going back and sort of a reconciliation into one, or one dying. We're not quite sure how that happened. But do read up on Leviathan. If there were two, it would make sense, right? According to what mythology says. Because God has created polar opposites of everything. Whether the other Leviathan was a female version or the good version. So Umnikazi then, would Umnikazi be the Leviathan or not? And I think the answer would be yes and no. Depending on the intent, depending on the perspective of mythology that you look at, because religion, Leon, is mythology, believe it or not. So my conclusion was, emanzini, water is fluid, and in this world, intent, this is something that we will get to grow and learn about as we twasam lozi, right? As we twasam lozi, we will realize that intent is the most important thing in this world. Everything else are just polar opposites, polarities, created only for the life form within you to exist and to have its own choices, right? it's very interesting how as people or as spiritual people, we have managed to quantify so many elements of negative forces, against the one God. I mean, God is a trinity, three in one, basically. But there is a devil. There are demons. Go na le Bale, go na le Ashera, go na le Leviathan, Babanzi, all created by God. So where would the balance be? I would suppose for the Trinity, the Holy Trinity, there should be the divine unholy Trinity. There can only be that. How does one entity, omnipotent, omniscient, omnipresent, now have this horde of unholy beings that seem to not be addressed properly, and that seem like they outnumber the God? It doesn't make sense. Not at all. It does not make sense. If we believe that everything was created by the Word, and that's a direct quote from the Bible. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word became flesh or tangible. Everything was created by the Word for the Word. If we are to believe that everything in the beginning there was only the Word, then it means that the polarities, the Leviathans, all of that were created within the context of the Word. If we say God is omniscient, it means that He is everything. It is everything in itself for itself, right? So how can this pure energy, this pure entity, now have all these demonic entities now sort of out of its control? Does not make sense at all. In this universe, science, everything has proven that there are only two polarities, right? Which are equal, by the way. Equal opposing forces. I think that's Newton's law. Okay, too much. So, okay, let me get to the topic here today. So I thought to myself, when I heard Profeto, right? But now, why do ba Profeta have Amabhayi? Why do you have Amabhayi? Why, seeing that Reberekisa the Bible, why then would our divination or divining or our belief in God now mean that we need traditional Amabhayi? In as much as the Bible now would say, I know there are prophets, I know certain Profeta that work like us, will tell you at once. You cannot have Egypta and Israel at once. You cannot have sin and God. Sin normally being referenced to ubungoma, right? How can you ujentwaso ujemadi and then still uberekele mudimu type of thing? I know there's been a lot of conversations about that, and I think Lorna, in our own African spirituality, we've had a lot of clashes with that. Recently, Mkulu made me aware, I'm leaning more towards Profito and Kiaseratas Profito, and I'm sort of not giving Ubungoma, or rather my Ubungoma, a chance, right? And it was a hard pill to swallow, right, by the way. But I do know that I was initially Ngoma. My gift, Kibungaka, Basizu, right? My gift was Bungaka. So, previously there has been a lot of opposite, even within our African spirituality. Now we do this and then, but that should not be done. I want to say this, the deemed polarity, how le mo profeta bereka ka metsi and you aujintwaso, and ubungoma ubereka ka ditlhare tsa setso, and ujantwaso. The deemed polarity between good and evil is only a polarity, a deemed polarity. There needs to be a clear polarity for everything that we do, because Mudimu does not create monna o leng mosadi inside. You can choose to be lesbian or gay or whatever, right? But in general, modimo ha etse mosadi o na leng a penis in general, right? It does happen where God now creates within here the context of his own expression what he wants. So what I'm saying is this: the nature it's in one direction, and this deemed polarity is a requirement, right? It's not that or now is completely bad. No. And it's not if only prophet Bible you are not an African healer or haungaka. No. But the deemed polarities need to remain. Why? Because where there is the coming together of the different gifts, the gifts, they do come together, just like people come together for sex, right? Just like the people come together for sex, and then they must separate again. It is the law of the universe. That is how the universe brings itself into being, right? You go on your period every month until you get pregnant. When you're pregnant, you don't need that, right? And then after the pregnancy, you will go back to your period again. There needs to be a coming together and a detachment. It is unfortunately, it's actually a very beautiful lesson on what God, the process of life is. So there needs to be that separation. Okay. So, like it was so. Today I want to give an explanation of why ba porofita, right? Amabhayi. And I'm going to slightly criticize the prophetic churches. And I'm going to do it quickly, and then bakana banshapa batoko ikerekenyo, and then batswemonna. Okay. We would acknowledge, and I'm talking about prophetic churches, your Postola, your ZCC, your Shembe, your St. John. Dikereke, they acknowledge an African spiritual gift from the context of the Bible, from the context of the one polarity. Look, there's nothing wrong with that. There is nothing wrong with that. And hopefully one day, why must they do that? Why must they do that, right? They acknowledge African spirituality from that sense, right? So what they do is they're acknowledging bungaka barona from only one perspective, right? I believe the main reason for that is because from the perspective, ya kereke, or from the religious perspective, then no one is really excluded. And Istunya is the foundation of bungaka anyway. Istunya is independent of religion or culture. So Istunya can be cultivated, whether we are go fire church or wherever, right? However, my only criticism is that they do exclude now the ancestral part of Bungaka Barona. So that is why when I know you're finding prophets, after the lockdown, now right? What that is showing us is that the same spirit, Sioni, what that is showing us is that Mokamedi Engenase as well, even though Asabula di Korota Kereke Kamula Wahage, however, he is connecting Libatu Bahage through now the work of their ancestors. It means that a prophetic church indirectly Kimpande Leone. So the only thing that, let me say, Mokamedi has done is sort of close off the actual building and sort of give all along through Siporofit or through Kereke, right? What he has actually done, and I think it's almost very strategic on their part, is that now he's closed that in and allowed the church members to continue Kereke through the perspective of Sidim. You guys think no, Abakwad. Lingelo la kereke ya lona is simply giving you guys a difference in perspective. Why? Because Lenyelo la Kereke ya lona knows or it has made its own rules on how it wants to address the gifts within the church. Right? So because it has sort of seen its own limitations. I'm not quite sure if Ntatele Kganyane has made this decision consciously, but I feel Hore, it is almost whether consciously or subconsciously, I feel like it was sort of the fullness, the coming full circle of Lenyelo ZCC of saying get lockdown, stay home. Don't think is oblivious to what is happening. Initially when I started doing readings for Batubako Sione, I thought maybe actually not. They were twasing stunya ko kerekeng indirectly, and now batwasa stunya sana sele sa ko ZCC last twasa yano, right? But let's twasa through the perspective of other elements. But okay, let me not go lolo into that. So why about Profeta Banali Mapai? I mean, if you more Profeta, you should be using Masela speaker. All right. I'm going to say this. I'm going to give a small teaching on Mapai and the similarities. I remember a few months back, I did a teaching on Noah's prophecies. Noah's granddad. What's his name? Noah's granddad's prophecies. And I remember saying that what I found interesting was that whenever he was shown Kimudimu, scenarios of people in the world or events of people in the world, the people would be depicted to him as animals. And whenever he was shown celestial beings, so this would be angels, God, that those celestial beings would come in as people, right? So this is very interesting because that gives us our first clue as to why there is a difference between Sporofito le Bungaka, right? If now Noah's granddad was shown, please somebody give me the name so I can remember it. If he was described of life events or of prophets even, any living human being, if he was shown living people as animals and situations motivating as aligned with nature and celestial beings as people, then that is the first clue as to why Bungaka ba se porofito. Hangata, you see people. Because so in actual fact, what Sporofito is and our dreams, that's Sporofito, are a fruition, a coming true of the scriptures of Noah's granddad's prophecies. Daniel does a very similar thing. Revelations do a similar thing. Jeremiah is more towards Batu. But I know Daniel, his books are Enoch. Jeremiah's books are more towards celestial beings. Jeremiah, Zechariah, celestial beings, right? Daniel is one of the people, and Ezekiel. Well, Ezekiel speaks more about analogies. So Ezekiel gidi pizza and its bones and that type of thing, right? But Daniel, I know the book of Daniel mostly speaks about animals, right? Animals that don't exist in this world. And so the book of Enoch and Enoch's prophecies, they give us a foundation as to how African spiritualists came to understand that when you are speaking about people, which would be Amadluzi, right? Living people who have lived, would look at spirit animals. And when we are speaking about Seporofeta or celestial beings or angelic spirits or Manyeloi, then we would be seeing people. So there's our first prophecy. That is our first proof that Enoch's book was probably African. Even if he was not an African guy, but our elders now aligned a lot with that, with his philosophy, right? Whatever the prophecy, Badimo Barona, they aligned a lot with it, right? So Amabhayi, Baprofeta. Now it becomes now another thing, because now you are given a celestial gift, right? Because Badimu are in the celestial plane, according to the Bible. You know, when you die, you go to heaven. That's it, right? The Bible does not recognize the etheric world, or what do they call it, metaphysical world. Doesn't acknowledge that. That space would be what the Bible would call heaven. So these people who were, according to Enoch's prophecies, animals, now move into the heaven, which is a metaphysical world, into celestial beings. So pila how le profeta, depending on your point of view, you will see idlozi either as an individual or a colleague or a friend, will be motu and not an animal. And you know what, I can prove that. For now, I've only dreamt of an animal once, when I got my ancestral name. When I got my ancestral name as Kandalembube, I was literally given the lion cloth. Lisila lata with the head, that's how I got the name. I was shown the cloth and that. So for me, the lion cloth has got a lot of resonance, right? Okay, let me bring the lion cloth to Sporofit. Hangata will say the lion cloth represents your mundao, right? Mundao, tau, lion. Okay, I know some people have said if it's not endao spirit, as in a person coming from the ndao people, then it's a mdawe spirit. Some people have said that. Okay, let's go with the mdawe, because you know, yeah. So lion cloth is representative of your ndao spirit, right? When I got my name Kandalembube, it actually translated into ndao spirits, and it made sense because I've spoken about Israeli. I basically understand my gift from ndao elements only, right? I'm not quite sure why Badimo I made it that way. So I understand my gift from ndao elements only. I don't dream of, you know, I wish, I was actually telling my husband, okay, you know, I don't dream of my mother giving me anything. I just hear a voice. That's it. I only hear a voice. Whether it's a voice telling me, oh, sporofito bungaka, I only hear a voice. And then I will see individuals that I do not know, that I've never met, that I know are not my relatives, right? So this would be Indians, white people, Somalians, people from the Kushites, maybe even Chinese. I just see foreign nationals. I've never actually had Amadlozi Army come and say to me, Lerato, we need this. Ukoko Mamchali, I saw her initially when I was twisting Isintu, but she vanished. And with time, I only started to hear her voice. So when I got this cloth, Yandao, it made sense. Because I'm essentially twisting spirits. And maybe not per se Madlozi. That is why even my understanding of Amadlozi is very, 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 it's twisted. So let me say, how is it twisted? Let's say I dream of my mother. I will dream of my husband with my mother's voice. I will dream of my child with my mother's voice. And it's always very metaphoric, or there is a joining of spirits somewhere, right? So then I know that it is through this person that I am finding that, or it is a connection. I mean, if I dream of my husband with my mother's voice, I know that she wants me to look at something that's got to do with the marriage. If I dream of my child with my mother's voice, she wants me to look at my gift, the gift itself, or to get my next lesson through my children, you know. So that's how it's been for me. So that's how I got the lion cloth. But okay, in general, the white lion cloth, right? Mundao, mdawe, wasemanzi. All right. How does that apply prophetically? Well, we sing the song Lion of Judah. Jesus Christ got a baptism. Mlozi came down through the dove. So the lion cloth and Jesus, what would be the difference? None. Because Jesus, according to Enoch's prophecies, was a person, Molifazin. So he would qualify to be depicted as an animal. Jesus does become Mdawe because he is a spirit. It is a spirit that is not directly linked to our bloodline. And Umdawe does not need to be a relative. That is actually the definition of Ndawe. So Jesus would make a perfect Ndawe spirit, actually, because he is foreign. We don't know him. We don't know where he comes from, yet to align the doctrine high. That's what a church building is. So would the white line cloth be symbolic of a Jesus? Yes. Revelations does speak of a being with four faces, and one of them being a Jesus, one of them being a lion. And well, it may not be said directly, but the insinuation is that that being with the four faces would be Jesus. So there, lion cloth, done. That's how you connect it to Sporofit. Okay, Mdawe. Umusweu, Ndawe wako meeting, Ndawe khanyang. That normally, the lion cloth, a white hangata, shows you that there's a prominent water spirits, right? With that, you would now get prominent water religious spirits, right? Because now water, again, we are talking about spirits that don't necessarily need to be your own spirits. We are now looking at Umdawe or even Umnigas, right? Which we are not quite sure, would it be the good or bad version of Leviathan? However, I will say this, that you look at the works of Jesus, and most of his work is around the rivers, in the rivers, on the sea. So white lion cloth, Ndawe, Jesus, done. The sun cloth. The sun cloth, is the one cloth. I want to tell this to you. If you've got the sun cloth, you are around 70% to 80, 90% prophetic. Unengelos. Umkulu, my husband, who is Mom Goma, does not have a sun cloth. It does not connect with him. For me, the sun cloth is what, if you come to Maimpande and you need to twasa, if somehow I also want you a sun cloth, I'm going to ask you to bring a sun cloth. That is the cloth that tells you what I'm about, right? And this is what Amadlozi told me about the sun cloth when I asked, okay, well, what does this mean? Why my prophet got a sun cloth? And this is what Ukoko Mamjali told me. She first made me read the first where I think the cloth is this one. Gosh, I can't bring it down. It's white with a big round sun disk. So when I asked about the sun cloth, Mam Jali said to me, read up on the 10 commandments and where they come from. And I've spoken about this previously. The 10 commandments actually come from the 42 virtuous sins or something. So the 10 commandments were derived from Egyptian mythology. These 42 rules, virtuous sins, were brought down by the Pharaoh. But the Pharaoh was said to be ordained by the sun god Ra. Everywhere now in religion, when we acknowledge divinity from Egypt, starting from Egypt, right into the modern world, we recognize a sun disk. A sun disk. After the sun god Ra. So Ra became, I believe, one of the earliest forms of divinity. And religion has sort of copied that as well into the sun disk, which later became a crown, which later became, whatever, into a halo. So when I asked about the sun cloth, they said, this is a prophetic cloth, because now it is coming from Egyptian mythology, and it is Egyptian mythology / African mythology applied into religion today. The halo is sun disk, son of man, which was initially spelled S-U-N of man and not son of man. That was only changed later with the Emperor Constantine. So son of man actually is an adaptation of sun god Ra. So there's your sun cloth. That is what makes that cloth a very religious cloth. If you have got the sun cloth, you must know your skills, your connection is towards prophetic spirits. Get a Bible when you have this cloth, when they give it to you. Doesn't matter what color it is, right? I hope to explain the colors with time. Which is another cloth. Amabhayi, I'm going to speak mainly about my cloths and how I managed to get them. So if by Elinge, my favorites, this was the first one I got, it's the cloth of the peacock. I read up on that as well. You know, what's the symbolism behind the peacock? And the peacock, you know, when you look at Goddess Oshun, I think it's one of her offering animals, that it is said to, the feathers are said to be the different eyes. The peacock has got many eyes. There is a book on that, on a beast described in Daniel, that has got many eyes on its back. So when I was given the black peacock cloth, I thought to myself, okay, this is Goddess Oshun, the many eyes, the beast with the many eyes. Again, it applied to me as a prophetic person, because the thought was that just like peacock as a spirit animal, I would be able to have views and to have understanding, perspective from different places. However, it also spoke about, having visions, your third eye. So we would think, Eastern mythology told us about one third eye. But now if African spirituality or African mythology, with Goddess Oshun having a peacock that has got many eyes being what it is, then it means that maybe in the African sense, we are not just focusing on the third eye chakra and actually looking at your gift from a many eyes point of view, because there are many ways to become a diviner. You see? Okay. The Ingwe Yamabala, leopard print. So for those who don't know, that's Tswana. Mundau was Tswana. Wapara Ungwe, a black and white. I don't know why. I do not know why. I don't know if this was an indigenous animal or what. Mundau was Tswana uses Ungwe, a black and white. Khangata, Ungwe, a black and white, I believe it should have been, because it's an animal that is in nature more than JT cloth. JT cloths are recent, right? Ungwe, a black and white, was the beginning of where we see Tswana or having a mlozi type of gift, right? Because now Ungwe black and white would be complete contrast. This is where we're starting to see Dingaka sort of connecting with universal spirits, right? Which would be Olewate, which would be mlozi and that. I've spoken about the connection between black and blue and how it works. So Mutswana, that cloth, if Ole Mutswana and you are dreaming of Ditau and you're dreaming of lions, you'll dream of lions, always. Well, most of the time. There'll be lions here and Dingwe somewhere else. Why? Because they're trying to make the analogy that Ungwe is actually the Mundau spirit of Botswana, right? If you've been shown a lion cloth, Ole Mutswana, buy yourself a black and white Ungwe. It's going to do a whole lot of work for you, right? But I didn't know this until a wise friend of mine, Koko Malekobi. Yeah, she's very deep. She was talking about Ungwe Yamabalabala, right? And this was a private lesson between Nalene many years ago. That we look at the brown and black Ingwe. and we will say what it's symbolic of ubukhosi, right? But ubukhosi probably mainly through the Nguni perspective, because Kastswana bukhosi ba teng, Batswana we put on Matlalwa Springbok. Ka Sesotho, I know Horibone, they've got their own things. Yes, there will be Ngwe as well, but now you're looking at the conquests, Shaka and Botingani and all of that, right? Where there's Nguni influence, you would see Ngwe black and white, right? But I know Kabatswana had Springbok skins. You know, Khosi can have everything. Springbok skin must be there. Akona black and white Ngwe mo, black and brown Ngwe, right? So when we spoke about it, because I mean previously I'd heard okay, Ngwe, it's ubukhosi, and I thought, okay, well, I mean, does this mean I'm from the royal house, whatever, my royalty and that? I couldn't get why until Gogo Malekobi and I had a discussion that when you look at the story of Joseph, the English version of that story says that his coat had many colors. The direct translation to Isintu is Joseph had ingubo ya mabala bala. Except mabala bala in the African context is ingwe. So could it be possible that ngwe ya mabala bala is representative of the colorful cloak? Because now anytime or anyone who dreams of colors most probably has sea or mermaid spirits, right? But also when you're looking at it from the Siporofito point of view, Ngwe Mabalabala now would be representative of the cloak of the dreamer, the person obuntiwang ka ditoro. Okay, Khaka e Blue. I was connected to Khaka e Blue many years ago. Impangele. And we would normally say, okay, Impangele, it's because it runs fast. But normally I know it's symbolic of now we are entering ancestral gifts, right? That are not being pulled out of the Bible. Impangele is mainly representative of your immediate family. So Impangele in many ways should be looking at your more nguni or your more cultural spirits, right? But I found this out a few years later, when I was preparing for my graduation. Uguti kastswana again, lisila, the traditional cloth yasitswana with the circle, even lika Sesotho, litsela la Setswana le nang di circles, libitswa lesela la khaka. So in actual fact, wearing the cloth yampangele e blue, you are apara badimo ba gago cultural spirits ba setso ba Setswana. Definitely. I know go berekiswa a pula, lesela la pula as well, which is also a cultural cloth. But if you look at the cultural cloth as well, pula li palo, they have the same meaning. They have the same meaning, by the way, right? Traditional cloths through Bungoma perspective. Most common. Jeez, there's so many. Most of Masila Amang, I just want to look here. What have I left out? Okay, the rooster, the peacock, the rooster, the chicken cloth. Again, kunale rooster in the Bible. You can look at it that way. But whenever we're looking at a cloth with a feathered animal, you must know you are walking into Mlozi state. So a chicken, it's a maikamoto, but it's got feathers. So now it is a combination of amadlozi ako that want you to teach through, they want to twasisa you through the lozi. So that means probably you as prophet or utwasas prophet, there's going to be a lot of divine lessons, right? And there's going to be lessons of things that you cannot learn in Pandin. So they will probably need you to take like your own interpretation of your gift. So it doesn't matter what we are compounding anything, by the way. On a chicken cloth, most probably it's not gonna make sense. this profit, it's not going to make sense. It's going to be like a bit of a half and half, because you are now trusting sort of Badimu that want you to understand universal and probably personal lessons. Injet, my favorite cloth, but I think the maroon and white injet, I've talked about it. I've talked about Mudiwangwe Metsi, right? And our understanding that the calf, we could call it the calf, Mudiwangwe Metsi. Before our understanding of religion, we believed Khomu is our understanding of spirituality as Africans. So ox, the maroon is actually the ox blood, right? And then the white would be now ox blood limeti. So maroon jeti, it's funny. Because I've seen people use it the wrong way. And I've seen people try to summon other spirits that are not required. However, my understanding of the Njeti cloth has become very broad, because the Njeti cloth are inner an animal, right? And again, it will tell you now that we're looking at universal spirits. If you are looking at any cloth as an ampologolo, then you are looking either at celestial beings, ingelosi, or you are looking at universal spirits. And Njeti, if you look at the two colors on it, completely contrasting. So I know previously there would be masila amdawe, because ndawe limlozi, they go like this. They need to be karma for you to work through the karma. That is actually the essence of life. So masila adinjetiki, essence of life, right? In the beginning, that's what it is. The world was earth and water. That's what it is. Alpha and Omega. You look at them. There is no single Njeti cloth that has got one color or two shades of one color. So I want a Njeti cloth, yeah, powder blue, royal blue. I want a Njeti cloth there. It's not two colors. So what does that tell you? The contrast of this cloth. An animal. It's a complete print. And it tells you now you're looking at an alpha and omega type of story. Right? Beginning and end. It is the beginning of a particular perspective. So it could be Seporofito Tubungaka. Seporofito Libungaka put together under one. Right? What would be the Bible scripture for that? Jesus Christ had water and blood come out of his side. Njeti cloth done. Njeti cloth done. I want to teach more about Masela, but I think my time has run out. Yeah. These are the most common cloths that I see the Prophet through, by the way. And yeah, these cloths, yeah, I think for now they are like the cornerstone of Bungaka for me. Among Masela, crocodile, and what, elephant. I'm going to teach about elephant as well. As well. The elephant is also another version of Mundao, actually, because apparently our African tribes, the Ntu people, were separated into people having a lion totem animal and an elephant totem animal. So in actual fact, that's how they differentiated themselves, and all of the rest of the totem animals come from those. Those were the two main kingdoms, right? So I would believe the elephant cloth would be now speaking to the basic kingdom maybe aligning to the tribe from which we come from. Yeah. I'll just say this, in passing. Why do we not have more black and white cloths? I mean, you think of Njeti. The blue and the white one, okay, has sort of taken the place here, the black and white. Why do we just not have a black and white Njeti? We should actually be having that, with the yellow one. But I guess I'll have, a teaching on colors. Yeah, yeah. Um, I'll try to do the ones that I did now and the different shades of them. And then we're going to go into Sporofeto and Dipika and what they mean. But I'm going to give you guys a clue. I'm going to just say this in passing. Hopefully, I'll teach about this next week. Casa Porofeto, because we were not supposed to practice our culture according to the Witchcraft Act. We started to have plain cloths, right? Masela Arun, prophetic cloths. You guys might think that it is a cross or a sun, like mine has got like a sun at the back. This is supposed to be a sun, not a sun, a star. You guys might think, oh, these are just, symbols. Cross, sun, ankh. And we might even say, okay, it's related to the Bible. But what Amadlozi were seen to start to do was masquerade Amabhayi through prophetic clothing. So, yesintu we say, umdawe akabonwa. That's NJT cloth, by the way. That's why it's just abstract. Palo as well would also be looking at a particular type of Ndao spirit. More water-based, so Palo you'd be looking at more mnika's water spirits, but you still see the maroon on the side. So that tells you, Hore, there is an element of Mudimwang Kwemeti, except Mudimwang Kwemeti now has taken on the form of a water spirit. So this would again be speaking to Umnikazi and calling Umnikazi Hallelujah or Hosanna, or even extending that and calling Umnikazi Ujesu. But what our elders started to do, they now took the plain cloth, and what they would do is symbolize the Ndao spirit at the back, because they were no longer wearing the animal cloths. So the cross, the star, the whatever, the moon, on the back of your speaker or your dust coat, it tells you which spirit you're awakening. Right? And even though it is very important that urukisa, let's say, the pika with difapano that you have seen. Because that cross is just as important as Ibai and even Amabeads, by the way. I'm even going to go as far as to tell you that Izpika, they also take on the place of beads. They also take on the place of beads. They also take on the place of even churches and insebenzo. The pika as well take on the place of colors, of candles. Right? I will just say this. In general, when I've got readings, I get told which colors pika to wear, that I align that person. So the cross, the whatever, is speaking about umdawe that you have got. And that is why certain churches, like you look at, I think you're for, where they've got the head yengwe, that is telling you a lot. That these people, these people, and they're wearing a church uniform. Masqueraded. You look at Iwesele being red and white. Uniform I can promise you 90% of Amawesele and 90% of Badimu Baruna who are attending Wesele, they come back as blue and white. They give you sport of it. So I hope to teach about that this coming few weeks. And how Amabhayi and what the cross, the star, the ankh on your speaker means as well. Right? Because you're going to see that you are seeing this through you are seeing his speaker as well through the different churches. I'll just tell you guys something in closing. This speaker, it's blue, it's postola, but they asked me to put a red star. right? And the star to me, when I was told about Spikase, was that it's a different interpretation of ZCC, because Postola Lisione, they're actually like sister and younger sister churches. They're sister churches. So my grandmother, Postola, she said to me, had you gone, was ZCC, that's why I've got the yellow and the green. But mo Postola, still recognizing ZCC being actually the highest form of Buprofita that you've got, we will still give you Naledi at the back. And Naledi, I think, Ichibidu. I'm going to say this. Red and green, they mean the same thing. But I'm going to talk about that and why red and green mean the same thing. Right? And why the different colors, blue, white, and green also mean the same thing. Right? And how that actually affects your spirituality. So, yes, it's green and gold. So have a good night. Let me continue with my readings. Hopefully it's a structured thing, but we're going to sort of understand it. Sometimes you get Amabhayi, ulum prophet, that doesn't mean Tamilo Wilo twas. Amabhayi au Mapayo atemo Bible. I'm gonna actually try to find the Bible scriptures for as many Mabai as I can. Right? I only know Mabai and Nakiwa feeling. The Swaziland cloth as well, believe it or not, was a prophetic cloth for me. But I'm going to teach about that hopefully next week. Have a great Wednesday. Give festive, be safe, rest a lot, and yeah. See you guys next week Wednesday. Togozani boko na bomkhulu. Togos.